chapter 18, asking to pray for us this morning. You know, when you get where I feel like I'm at right now, it's hard to stand. You know, I don't know what is wrong. I feel I struggle when I pray. But it makes it hard for me to stand here. It makes it hard for my thoughts, you know. It just makes it difficult for me to bring a lesson to you when I'm where I feel like I am right now, and I ask y'all, please pray for me. We'll go ahead and get started, chapter 18. Moses, his father-in-law, says he was a priest of Midian. He was of the Midianites. Who was Midian? All Midianites. Descendants of Midian. Who is Midian? When I looked, it kind of surprised me. You know, you think of Abraham. You know of Isaac, and you know of Ishmael, and you don't think about Abraham had more children. Midian is a son of Abraham. He had 6 other children. I know I'd read it before, but it just hadn't clicked, you know. And when I was looking, that's Genesis 25. Abraham had 6 other children, and Midian is one of them. But the Midianites were descendants of Midian, of Abraham. They're Gentiles. And it says here that he was Jethro was a priest of the Midians. Moses' father-in-law heard of all that God had done for Moses and for the children and for Israel, his people, and that the Lord had brought Israel out of Egypt. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back. You know, we know that when Moses came to Egypt, she came with him. And I don't know when she went back, but at some point in time she went back to Midian. It says, and her 2 sons, of which the name of one was Gershom, for he said, I have been an alien in a strange land, and the name of the other Eleazar, for the God of my father, said he, was mine help, and delivered me from the sword of Pharaoh. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, came with his sons and his wife unto Moses into the wilderness where he encamped at the mount of God. And he said unto Moses, I, thy father-in-law Jethro, am coming to thee, and thy wife and her 2 sons with her. And Moses went out to meet his father-in-law and did obeisance and kissed him, and they asked each other of their welfare, and they came into the tent. What this is saying is he did obedience. In the East, that's a way of greeting. When they greet, you know, they would kiss and ask each other how you've been doing. But that was in obedience. And Moses told his father-in-law all that the Lord had done unto Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all the travail that had come upon them by the way, and how the Lord delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced for all the goodness which the Lord had done to Israel, whom he had delivered out of the hand of the Egyptians. And Jethro said, Blessed be the Lord, who hath delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, who hath delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, for in the thing wherein they dwelt proudly he was above them. You know, the last 2 or 3 chapters that they've been grumbling and complaining and this and that, and here we get into a chapter and we're rejoicing, we're praising God. It's kind of good to hear that. And Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and sacrifices for God, and Aaron came and all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. And it came to pass on the morrow that Moses sat to judge the people. And the people stood by from morning unto evening. And when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did to the people, he said, What is this thing that thou doest to the people? Why sittest thou thyself alone? And all the people stand by thee from morning unto evening. And Moses said unto his father-in-law, Because the people come unto me to inquire of God. When they have a matter, they come unto me, and I judge between one and another. And I do make them know the statutes of God and the laws. And Moses' father-in-law said unto him, This thing that thou doest is not good. Thou wilt surely wear away, both thou and this people that is with thee, for this thing is too heavy for thee. Thou art not able to perform it thyself alone. Hearken now unto my voice. I will give thee counsel, and God shall be with thee. Be thou for the people to Godward, that thou mayest bring the causes unto God, that thou shalt teach them ordinances and laws, and shalt show them the way wherein they shall walk, and the work they shall do. Moreover, that thou shalt provide out of all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such of them to be rulers over thousands, rulers over hundreds, rulers over 50s, and rulers over 10. And let them judge the people at all seasons, and it shall be that every great matter they shall bring unto thee, but every small matter they shall judge. So shall it be easier for thyself, and they shall bear the burden with thee. If thou shalt do this thing, and God command thee so, then thou shalt be able to endure, and all this people shall also go to their place in peace. So Moses hearkened to the voice of his father-in-law, and did all that he said, and chose able men out of Israel, and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of 50s, and rulers of 10. And they judged the people all the season. The hard cases they brought to Moses, but every small matter they judged themselves. And Moses let his father-in-law depart, and he went his way into his own land. You know, how would you like to have been Moses? You know, we see him as the deliverer, you know, and from that aspect, yeah, he looks like a pretty good thing, don't it? But there's 2 million of these people, and he's the only one there that judges their matters. You know, we tend to forget a lot of times about they do have everyday life going on. Even though they're traveling and they got all this and all that going on, you know, they still have everyday life taking place in that camp. They still going to get disagreement. You know, they're still going to, I'm sure there was probably, this one done this to me and this one done that to me. And you know, in a sense, you see this is kind of like the way the church was set up later, as far as, you know, Moses being the leader. You know, as you know, make it comparable like to our pastor. You know, Jethro was telling him, you know, you can't bear all this yourself. And in the church today, we've got the deacons. You know, they're to take care of a lot of this stuff. You know, to keep it off of the pastor. I mean, you know, when you get over and it talks about the deacons, and I want to say it's in Acts, it may be over Timothy, but where it says, you know, they're to keep their minds on the things of God and on, you know, bringing God's word to the people. You know, and that's kind of what Moses was doing. I mean, he was just at this point, you know, getting the law, getting, you know, the ordinances from God, and you know, if he's going daylight to dark, it said from morning to evening, sitting here listening to these people and judging between them, how much time has he got then to rest, for one thing, and to commune with God? Because I promise you, if there's 4 or 5 grumbling in his ears, he's not getting nothing done with God. You know, his mind is here. And, you know, I believe when we talk to God, if we're going to talk to him and hear him when he talks to us, our mind and our heart has got to be on God and God only. You know, if we've got all this other stuff going on, you know, we're not going to be able to commune with God, and if he's not getting from God what he's supposed to be getting to bring the people, then the people's the ones going to suffer. You know, Jethro, he just said, look, you know, you're going to burn yourself out. You know, you're not going to be no good to nobody. Let's set people up here to take some of this burden off. And that's what's taking place. And like I said, it's a whole lot like, you know, the deacons coming up in the church. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but, you know, if I've got a difference with Michael over here, you know, we're to go to the deacon first, right? Before we go to the pastor, am I right? I mean, that's the way I understand it to be, but I may be wrong. But that's what I think. You know, there's some things our pastor don't need to be bothered with. You know, there's some things there's some things that he don't. I think a lot of times we put things on him, we tell him things that he's better off if he don't know. You know, you go to your pastor and you ask him to pray for you. You know, you don't always have to know why. Sometimes it's probably better off if you don't know. You know? I'll tell you, I'm here for any of you at any time. If anybody needs to talk to me, I'm here. I want you to all know that. I hope you know it. But I don't have to know everything. You know, even in my just my daily life, you know, that things go on and there's things I just, you know, I don't want to know. You know, you've heard the old saying, if what you don't know don't hurt you. You know how much truth there is in that?
There's a lot.
Huh? You know, if Michael comes to me and starts talking to me and telling me all this about Mason, boy, he's going to wind up getting me stirred up, getting me kind of hard at Mason. Well, how much good am I to either one of them when I'm that way? You know, if Michael comes to me and wants me to pray for this situation, you don't have to tell me what it is. You know, because when he comes to me that way, you know, I can pray for him. I can pray with him. But boy, when he starts filling me full of all this junk over here that I don't have no business knowing to begin with, then I can't pray for him. Because my heart gets, you know, you understand what I'm saying? I don't know no other way to say it, but you know, I'm not saying, you know, if you need to talk to somebody, talk to them by all means. Because if you don't, then it's going to cause you problems. But be careful who you talk to. Be careful what all you tell them. You know, our pastor, everybody. I got a lot of respect for you. You know, I do. I hope everybody does. You know, I know, like I say, from my life, it can be difficult. You know, you hear one grumbling about another one. Well, how are we supposed to lift each other up when we start becoming divided in ourselves, one against another? Does it make sense? I can't help you if you're telling me all this stuff trying to get me on your side, because I cannot be divided and be any good to you. And nobody else can either. Like I said, if it's something you've got to say, you've got to talk about, then that's fine. Then it's got to be. My opinion is if that happens, then we, not only me and you, but me and you and whoever the other party is should also be present. You know, there's certain ways we have to go about this stuff to keep from getting partial. When we get partial, we're divided. We get divided, we got problems. Anybody got anything they'd like to add this morning?
Ronnie, I always use the philosophy, I agree to disagree with anybody and still eat supper with them. I realize if we're coming up to a vote or something and this is that and this is that, and I voice my opinion, you know, that's what it is. A lot of people not like that, and I think it all deals in love. We love each other. Love will prevail when the world's on fire. It's love. It's love that brought us in here. It's love that's going to take us out. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, tired, hungry, and broke. You know, you get somebody tired, hungry, and broke, and you'll start getting somebody that's get more carnal, not less spiritual, because they're worried. They're worried. And when people get worried, they get looking at something. And when you get people looking at something, they're going to find it. You know what I'm saying? It's a good lesson, brother. I appreciate you.
Anybody else?
Well, I learned a long time ago there's always two sides to every story.
You know, the biggest thing I want us to understand this morning is we don't always have to know the story, because that's where the problems come from. You know, you can tell me you need my help, you need my prayers, without telling me what it's about. You know, one thing, my philosophy, I don't have to answer for them. I don't have to answer for you. The only one I got to answer for is me. Yeah, I can try to guide you. I can try to direct you. I can offer you my opinion, what I would do. In the end, though, it's you.
Could you imagine, like you said a while ago, Moses, millions of people? I can't even fathom that. I mean, when you try to visualize that, it ain't even close. I can't imagine dealing with 2 million people's problems, and they just come out of Egypt, just come out of bondage, in a wilderness, you know. I just amazing. Hey, that's amazing, amazing news.
That's the way a lot of people are though. They're so down, so out, and God steps in, shows up, shows out, and next thing you know, they're griping about something else. Don't really count their blessings of what God's done for them, how far they've been. And
You know, I read something this week, said, our, I can't remember exactly how it was worded, but, you know, our problems, our difficulties, you know, our trials, we engrave them in marble, but our blessings, we write them in the sand. We always remember them problems, you know, just like children of Israel here where they, we ain't got nothing to eat, we ain't got nothing to drink. Why'd you bring us out of Egypt? You know, forget about the blessing. Get so hung up on what's going on in the moment. And that moment of being yonder is one we should be hung up on.
We talked about it last week, is when he held his arms up, they prevailed. When his arms were going down, you know, they kind of backed up a little bit. The brethren held his arms up. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yep.
You know, we all can't get on top of the mountain. We all can't get it out. But when we do see somebody down there, we should lift them up. Try to anyway, you know. And Lord help us if we might forget somebody, and you know, it just, that's when everybody else is just looking and should be lifting them up. I feel good in the Lord this morning. I really do. The devil's just been on me. I'm telling you, I'm serious. And he's been all up and down over Wednesday night service, you know, it was just all over me. But I feel good this morning. I appreciate this class. I appreciate Ronnie standing up there. You know, I really do. I really appreciate the men of the church. I appreciate the ones that went out yesterday and had a great time yesterday. Lord help, we had a good van ride down there and back, and you know, a safe trip. And I love the Lord this morning. I thank Him for saving my soul.
Amen.
I come looking for a blessing today. I don't know about anybody else.
Amen.
Anybody else?
I was hoping we wouldn't even get Sunday school this morning. I've been ready to preach since 1 o'clock this morning. I just don't know when I'm gonna get there.
If that's all, we'll hope y'all enjoy the rest of the service.